Welcome to the next installment in my video lecture series in economics. And in this particular video lecture, I'm going to be taking a look at the law of demand. And as usual, this relates to my Principles of Microeconomics course. As always, I like to give appropriate attribution to any quotations I use in a particular presentation. So this is the citation for any quotes that appear in this particular video. It's always good to start off with a few terms, and we're going to be taking a look at something called the demand schedule. And as the textbook shows, the demand schedule shows how much of a given product a household would be willing to buy at different prices for a given time period. And I think it's important to realize that's what people are willing to buy. So at that price, what they are willing to purchase doesn't mean that's what they're going to be able to purchase, but what they are willing to purchase at those different prices in a given time period. So here is an example of a demand schedule, and this relates specifically to the example that is in the textbook that is cited at the beginning of this presentation. So this is Alex's demand schedule for gasoline, and the demand schedule lists out the prices per gallon and how much Alex is willing to purchase in a given week at that particular price per gallon. So as we can see here, that at a price of $8 per gallon, Alex is not going to demand any gasoline. At that price, it is just too expensive for this individual to purchase, to drive their car and to purchase gasoline doing that. So at that price of $8 per gallon, they're not even going to bother driving their car because the price of gasoline is too high. If the price were to fall to $7 per gallon, Alex would be willing to purchase 2 gallons per week at that $7 per gallon price. If the price were to fall to $6, Alex would be willing to purchase 3 gallons per week. At $5 per gallon, Alex is willing to purchase 5 gallons per week. At a price of $4, Alex is willing to purchase 7 gallons per week, and the remaining data there is showing. So at $3 per gallon, Alex is willing to purchase 10 gallons per week. At $2, 14 gallons per week. $1, 20 gallons per week. And if gasoline were to be given away for free, Alex would willingly purchase, I guess is a incorrect term, would willingly demand 26 gallons of gasoline per week. Now we can take this data and use it to actually plot out Alex's demand curve. So remember that the demand schedule is the underlying data with which we use to graph out Alex's demand curve. So if we start at $8 per gallon, the quantity demanded is equal to 0 for Alex. So we have this point right here, which represents a quantity demanded of 0 at the price of $8. At 7, Alex is willing to purchase 2 gallons per week. At 6, willing to purchase 3 gallons per week. And all we're doing here is plotting out all of these individual points that are in Alex's demand schedule for gasoline. So we can continue through with $4 per gallon, and Alex wants 7, or is willing to purchase 7 gallons per week. And we can continue through by lowering the price by $1 every single time to give us all the points that are represented here in the demand schedule. And if we connect all those points, that gives us the demand curve for Alex. So make sure you remember that the demand schedule is the underlying data that is used to plot the demand curve. Lastly, we have a couple of terms. Realize that the demand curve is a graph illustrating how much of a given product a household would be willing to buy at different prices. So again, it's just a graphic representation of the data that's in the demand schedule. And lastly, be aware of what is the law of demand. It's the negative relationship between price and quantity demanded. So the demand curve is going to be downward sloping. And here it includes ceteris paribus, which means all other things being equal. In later videos, I'll be going over some of those things that might be changing and how that impacts the demand curve. So ceteris paribus, as prices rise, quantity demanded decreases, and as prices fall, quantity demanded increases. So this is important to remember. We're building up our knowledge of the demand curve, what goes into the demand curve, etc. So make sure you have an underlying understanding of the demand schedule and how that's used to plot the demand curve, and in particular that the demand curve is going to be downward sloping. That is the law of demand.